The Pareto principle is a really useful tool for data analysts. Also known as the 80-20 rule, it states that 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. In a report like this in Power BI, if I change the slider to 80%, you can actually see that 80% of the revenues is generated by 9 of the customers. And that's reflected not only on this Pareto diagram, but also on the revenue analysis breakdown by customer. So if I'm moving this around in the slider, maybe down to 30%, you can see that 2 customers generate 32% of the actual total revenue. And that's also being reflected here in these different categories inside this matrix. This isn't so easy to pull off, but today I'm going to show you how you can make this yourself. In order to make this as accessible as possible, I have created a starting point, which is basically just going to be an empty Power BI file with all of the different measures that I'm using in this report. I'm going to make that available for people on my GitHub, which will be linked in the description. I'd also like to give a shout out to Gustav Dudek, who is basically the reason that I made this. I saw him post this on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and it was honestly so nice that I decided to try to make it myself, and that's why we have a video today. So thanks, Gustav, for letting me do this. Now, the format of this tutorial is going to be a little bit different than what I've done before. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to indicate 5 different ways to make the Pareto principle. We're going to make the basic one, which is honestly completely static, doesn't move at all. We're going to make one that is static with an others bin, which also doesn't really move at all. The only thing that's changing is the color binding. You can actually see that this diagram changes, but the actual important bit, which is the breakdown, does not. Then we're going to create a static others group. So you can see that the top customers are grouped here, and then the bottom customers are grouped here. But honestly, this doesn't change when I actually make the revenues go up and down. So this is honestly something I'm going to show first, just so you get an idea of what you could potentially do. But then we're actually going to take it a step further and show you how to make it dynamic, so that if I'm changing the percentage of revenues, then the number of customers actually changes, as well as a dynamic others groups, which is what you saw initially, which is changing the actual number of customers that are grouped here and there. I'm doing it in this way because jumping just into making this seems to be a bit more complex, because there's a lot of different steps that you need to go through. So I'm really hoping that in this way, even someone who's pretty new to this Pareto principle and the concepts that I'm going to use can make this, it's like version 5 at the end of this video. Okay, so let's jump right in. We're going to go to the Pareto design, and I'm going to start by showing you the actual data and some of the different measures that we're going to use. So the data itself is honestly super simple. It's just the number of customers and their revenue in millions of US dollars. Right now, it's actually already ordered, but you can see that there are, 19 different, customers, as well as their, revenue, which is already just in decimals, which is representative of millions of US dollars. That's completely fine. I've loaded this into the data set itself, so you can actually see that there's some additional columns here, which we're going to make in just a sec later. Okay, but let's start with the most basic one. We're going to make this, and I'm going to walk you through what we actually need to first make this bar chart. Let's throw in insert visual gallery. We'll go and make this. We're going to put in a line and clustered column chart. Doesn't honestly matter so much. I think you can actually have this be, no, it has to be a line and clustered column chart. So we're going to put this in here. For the x-axis, what we're going to do is we're going to put in the customer. So the customer is going into the x-axis, and the revenue is going into the column y-axis. That's basically already, the line that we, the columns that we actually want to use, except it's just formatted slightly differently. So let's go back here, and we're just going to place this here for now. That's complete. And then we're going to go and just put this customer as well as revenue into a table. Maybe let's put this into a matrix. That's fine. Okay. And once we have those, let's go back and take a look at what we're actually trying to show. We've got the rank, the revenue grand total percent, the revenue cumulative, and the revenue cumulative percent The reason we're actually making all of these things is because, for one, you need to identify what the rank is of all of the customers. That's basically how it's ordered naturally, but the rank is something that we're going to need in the other calculations. Then we're going to, it's like just put in the revenue. The revenue here is really just the sum of, it's like this column. There's nothing special about this. Revenue GT percentage is showing the percentage of this revenue as a percentage of the grand total. There's two different ways to do this, and I'll show you, it's like how in just a second. And then the revenue cumulative, this is where it gets interesting, because here the cumulative revenue is basically saying, okay, we're at rank 1, just take, it's like what's the revenue of rank 1, but at rank 2, take the revenue of rank 1 plus rank 2, at it's like at rank 3, take all of these, add them together. It's basically adding the revenue at each level so that you can have an actual valuation of how much you have total for the top, it's like number of items. This is basically what we're doing to find the cumulative revenue percentage. So it starts at 16%, then you add 13% to that at rank 2, you add, 10% at rank 3, and this will essentially show you how much percent all of these different, top customers together make of the total, it's like revenue for all customers. That's a really roundabout way of saying that, it's like if we want to have 28%, then we'll, it's like it'll be in the top 2 customers. If it'll be at 74%, it'll be in the top, it's like 8 customers, etc. We need to get this percentage value in order to make this Pareto, it's like diagram. So we have to make all of these things. The way that we're actually doing it is we are going to make, okay, let's go right here. First, we're going to make the rank. The rank here is basically just taking, okay, so we're going to actually go back and we're going to start with the revenue. The revenue is just the sum of the data. Now, that's okay. I've made this an explicit measure because that's usually best practice, but you could just drag this into this table right here. And then from the revenue, we make the rank. If we just take a look at the rank right here, let's make this a lot bigger for now. The only thing that you need to focus on right now is this part right here. So if we're looking at this, rank X, all selected data customer, revenue 1. What this is actually showing is what is the rank of the customer based around revenue. And we're using the all selected in case someone has any filters. So if I was doing something like this, where I was just selecting the top, well, not even the top items, but, just random items, you can see that it's still ranking properly because it's the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 by the actual customers that are selected. But if I was to actually go into this rank and change this to all, then you'd actually see that if I select different items, it shows the rank of all items and not just the selected items. It's usually good practice to, have all selected in rank, in my opinion, because that will make your data dynamic. The reason that we have this wrapped around is in scope is because you don't really want to have a rank, it's like when you're not having a customer selected. I'll show you what happens if we don't have is in scope. So let me just copy this, comment this out. If we do this, then you'll see that there's a rank 1 here because, for the total, there's only 1 total. And I guess that ranks as number 1. You don't really want to show this, so that's why we have this here. Let's go back to our report and, it's like make sure that we have revenue in there and we've got our rank. So that's pretty good. We're also going to sort by the rank. Let's make this a little bigger and just focus on this for now. Okay, cool. So then what we need to do is we need to make the revenue grand total percentage. So if we're actually looking at this and we're, going to make revenue grand total percentage, I told you there's 2 ways to do it. One way to do it is, of course, using the measure itself, which is you're just going to take the total revenue and divide it by the take the revenue and divide it by the total revenue. I created another measure, total revenue, which is the revenue for all the selected data. And that basically means that if I put in the total revenue here, you can see the total revenue is just the total, but showing on each row. Let's take that out. And if I want the revenue grand total percentage, this is something that's been formatted into a percentage, has 0 decimal places, and it's basically just going to show what is the percentage of 3.5 to 22.39. Now, another way you can do this is you can right click on the revenue and you can show value as percent of grand total or percent of column total if you'd like. But if I show percent of grand total, it actually does show the same thing. But since we're actually going to use revenue, it's like to show here, I'm actually just going to move this back, show as no calculation. That's okay. We're also going to show revenue cumulative and cumulative percentage. Now, revenue cumulative, let me see here. This starts to look a little bit more complex, but it's really not so bad if you think about it. So let's make this as simple as possible, and we're going to we're just going to focus first on this. Top N of the rank measure by all of the customers by revenue. So if it's like are looking at this top N, it's basically saying what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the top rows, the top number of rows of this measure here from this table, which is, it's like customer, which is ranked by the revenue. So what this is showing, if I was just to have, it's like this measure, no, sorry, if I was just to show this part right here, it's just going to give me the table here, all selected data customers by this rank. So at this level here, it only gives me this one row. At this level here, it gives me 2 rows, and so on and so forth. Then we are going to put that in as a, it's like filter context inside the calculate function. So what this part here is doing is it's calculating what is the revenue for the top rows. And it's like number 1 rank here changes based on which row you're at. So it'll be this rank value here. So what this is telling me is it's going to add all of the different revenues up to the row that you're at. So it's like at here, it's going to add all of these two together. At it's like rank 8, it's going to add all of these items in blue up here to create 16.94. Seems pretty straightforward. And of course, once again, the reason that we have is in scope is because at the it's like very at the very bottom, if we are trying to create a top 1 rank, the number 1 rank, basically because we've removed the is in scope, just becomes a blank value. We actually do want to show the cumulative sum as part of the total as well. So if the data customer isn't in scope, we're actually just showing the total revenue. Great. And then cumulative revenue percentage is just what is the total divided by this specific, cumulative revenue at that specific. Pretty cool. Let's go and, it's like implement that right here. So we are going to put in cumulative revenue first and then cumulative revenue percentage. Let's go here. We're going to just format this very quickly. What we're going to do is we're going to bring out all of these different panels. We're first going to change all of these to be named something a little bit easier to see. And you can see that I've just renamed them into something smaller so that it fits into the table. I'm also going to change a couple of, it's like design aspects. So in the format pane, I'm going to go into layout and presets. I usually like to go minimal or none as the actual style. And here we have compact. You can always put, outline or tabular, but for the first one, it really can just be compact and that's fine. Indentation doesn't really do anything for us because we only have 1 column in the rows. We're going to go to grid, options, and row padding. We're going to increase the row padding to, let's say, 5, 6. That's totally fine. We're also going to go into the global font size right here from the grid options. And we're going to make this maybe size 12. Is 12 too big? It's hard to see at this point. Honestly, 12 is not that big. We could even make this 14. Yeah, 14 seems perfect, and that seems to be almost everything. In order to match some of the things here, I'm going to just copy this text here. Revenue analysis breakdown by customer, that's what we're calling it. And that's going into the title. I'm making this title, let's go to Segway UI. We're going to make it bold. We're going to make it 16. And we're also going to just copy the subtitle, which is revenues in millions of US dollars. Also in percentage, cumulative revenues in percent. And we're going to go back to our actual working Power BI file, add that to the subtitle, put that in there. That can be Segway UI Size 12, that's completely fine. One of the things here is that I like to put some space in between, it's like revenue cumulative and not revenue cumulative, in between, it's like the actual box, the matrix that we're using, and the title. And you can do that by adding some spacing here, and you can make this 10, for example. But that's not really what I want to do. So I like to just do this where I turn the divider on, space below the title, which is just the space between the title and the subtitle. I'll just put this to like 2 or 3 or something, that doesn't matter. Space below subtitle, I'll make this into 10. Space below title area, I'll make this into 10. You can only put in 10 because if you try to put in something more, it tells you that the max value is 10. So put it as 10, but then you can also make the divider white and make the width here size 10. I think 10 is also the max here. Yeah. So in this way, you can make this space a little bigger. And we're also going to do a couple of design tricks, which is just I'm going to make the top part here, which is the row headers. Background color, I'm going to make that blue, but very, very light blue, so that it has a small tint. Sorry, that's not row headers. It's supposed to be column headers. Column headers, we're going to make the background color very, very light blue, just so that there is a small amount of difference. And then the bottom parts, the totals. Okay, so maybe now you can actually see that with everything in there, there's a scroll bar. I don't like to use scroll bars because that means that there's some additional work that the end user needs to do to see all of the data. So we're going to make the size, or maybe the grid row padding, a little bit less. So just change that to 5 so you can see everything again. And then we're going to go to the row grand total, and we can make the background color here into gray. Click on apply to labels. Maybe that gray is a little bit too much and I want something a little bit more subtle, so I can just make that a very slightly lighter gray. Yeah, that's okay. I'm really not trying to, it's like make this super, it's like visible, just trying to show that this is slightly different. Okay, so this is basically what I have here, except for this one item here. You can see that this is basically showing what is the cumulative value, and then what is not the cumulative value, what is the actual Pareto, it's like items, and what's not. And in order to do that, we need to create this other stuff. Custom, it's like cumulative revenue, custom or cut off customer, cut off rank, and etc. And we're making all of this so that we can actually add this in here as well. The way that we're actually going to do this is first we're going to identify the cut off customer. Now this seems like a lot, but I'm going to walk you through this, so it's like don't panic. Cut off customer, this is actually really simple. Let's start at the most basic part, which is here. Summarize all selected data, it's like by the data customers. So here we're only selecting the customers that are, it's like actually in the visual. It's going to create one column, which is basically just going to be this column here. So when I select something like this, because it's all selected, it's going to have just these different, it's like values here. And from the selected customers, let's add 2 more columns, which is going to be the cumulative revenue percentage. And then we're going to have the cumulative revenue percentage subtracted by target percent. But wait, what's the target percent? The target percentage here is actually a different measure we will go back to into a second, called the Pareto value. The Pareto value is this value. So here, if I put it to 0.8, the Pareto value is 80%. If I put it to something else, it'll be, it's like whatever that specific value is. It's the slider value. So if I go here, then basically up to here, this basically just means that I have all of the selected customers with the cumulative revenue percentage, and then the cumulative revenue percentage subtracted by the target percentage, which basically is just going to be, so if the cumulative revenue percentage here is 16%, it's 16% minus 80%, for example. That's the table we've made, it's like here, and then we're going to rank the items by the difference. So what we're actually trying to do is we're trying to find which item has the smallest difference. So here, 79%, that would be the smallest difference, it's like of anything, because you just have to conceptualize another column here. What's 80 minus 16? What's 80 minus 71? What's 80 minus 83, etc. And we're trying to find which one has the smallest amount of difference. And we're taking top one there. And it's like because we're taking the top one as the closest customer, we're just going to identify that's the closest customer of all of these customers. That's basically what it is. If I throw this cut of customer into the actual report, let's just try showing you here. Cut off customer here is just this rulebook rendezvous because it's showing closest, and that's all that it's doing. Let's remove this, put this back. If we have the cutoff customer, then we can calculate everything else that we need, which is what is the revenue of this customer. So we just make sure that the cutoff customer, which is, it's like this guy right here, then what is the cumulative revenue for this, it's like person right here. We can, it's like put that, it's like find that person. What is the rank of this specific person? We just find that by identifying the rank. What is the cut off revenue? So we're just doing a couple of different, percentages, and you can actually see that the condition here is if the selected value is that customer, find this value. And the reason we're doing that is because we're going to make this label here in just a moment. We only want this label to show inside this area. And for example, if we took at cutoff revenue and we didn't have this closest customer condition, what we would do is we would show that label on everything. Let me just show you what that looks like. Okay, that's actually not showing what it's supposed to do. I thought it would show everything, but that's okay, because I am actually using this for it's like something inside here, which I'll get to in just a second. Okay, but what was the point of doing all of that? The point was we're still trying to get to here, which is the color. Now the cutoff rank, because we've made it in this way, is now only showing the rank for this specific value. So let me show you right here. Cutoff rank is only showing here. So if we wanted to show on every single, it's like item regardless of the customer filter context, we can, I've actually made this here, which is cutoff rank, which is basically just using this function, max x values all selected. And this basically means that it's going to take the max value of all of the selected items and just paste that in everywhere else. So we're going to use this function in order to identify the color. This color here, okay, so this is a gray hex code and this is a light blue hex code. And if the rank here is greater than the Pareto cutoff rank, then we're going to, it's like make it blue, or we're going to make it gray, or we're going to make it blue. That's basically all there is to it. So let me just go back here. The way that we're actually adding that, it's like one column to for an indicator is we have two different columns here, which are supporting columns, where it's just a blank column is equal to the blank function. And the reason we have that in there is if I put in the blank right here, just before the rank column here, we can just squeeze that in, and I'll show you how to fix this in just a second. But the blank, we can conditionally format the background color. Select format style, select field value, select color. And if we pick the first one here, then it's going to do exactly this, which is an indication of what color it should be. Okay, so this blank here, we can fix by removing the name and making that into a space. Okay, let's rid of everything so that we can see. Okay, it doesn't look quite right. Get rid of the cutoff rank. Now it looks like things have been squished together. Sometimes this happens. All you need to do is you need to go to your column headers, turn off the text wrap, and there you have it. So now we have this nice little bar, which will indicate for us that, let's just sort this out first. Okay, which will indicate for us what are the customers that are inside the Pareto, inside the what customers are actually bringing in the 80% of the revenue. And this is basically it. Right now, this is actually sort of dynamic. It's like if the value is, it's like specified, because here in the cutoff customer, if the Pareto value was, it's like not specified and it was just put to 0.8, a very static value, then nothing would change here, so to speak. Like, we'd see that this is 80%. But the reason we have this be the Pareto value is because we have created a slicer. It's, it's like, which is basically just going to be a slicer that's a what if parameter that has a specific value. We're going to get into that later and I'll show you a bit more about it. But for now, This is essentially the table that we want to show. And we can see that it's not perfect. If we want to make sure that it's, like properly formatted, we do need to, to go in and make sure that everything just right. You can actually just do this yourselves. You can see that this is just too large, for example. Maybe the, it's like size needs to be moved around a little bit. Maybe we'll get some of the font sizes to be a bit smaller again. Yeah, so maybe changing the global font size a little bit, and then, it's like increasing the row padding again. This is, broadly speaking, just a nice to have more than anything else. So, it's like, don't worry too much about doing that. I've also added a little bit of gradient here. Let me just see what color I used in this gradient. Okay, I just basically took it out, and I'm going to go back here. In this actual, working report, I'm going to right click on the build panel. I'm going to add conditional formatting to the revenue cumulative percentage. To background color, we're going to put the lowest value as white and the highest value as this value right here, E7, EC, EF. Okay, cool. Okay, and you can see now there's a nice little gradient. It's just honestly a nice little touch that I saw Gustav do, so I'm just adding it here. So now we've created this, we're also going to go ahead here and create the rest of the stuff. And honestly, we don't need to make that, any more measures. We're only going to be using what we've already created for this table. So first, let's go here. Let's select cumulative revenue percentage, add that to the line Y axis. Now it doesn't look perfect yet. That's completely okay. And we're also going to go in and make sure that we have the, let me see, what do we need? I think we need to have the cut off cumulative revenue as the line axis here. Maybe not, that's not the right one. Cumulative revenue percentage right here. Okay, that's what we need. Cut off cumulative revenue percentage. That's, you can see that's being represented by this orange line right here. Let's make this a little bigger so we can just focus on this visual. Okay, that's great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to format this a little bit. We don't really need to add anything more to this actually. And let's get rid of the legend. You actually don't need that. The y-axis, this is actually pretty important. The y-axis here, I'm going to set to, I think, 4.2. And the secondary y-axis, I'm going to set to 1.2. The reason that I'm doing this is because I want the 3.5 to be exactly aligned to 100%. You can see that the max value is 3.5. And although I'm doing this, it's like by hand, so I'm manually inputting a value, you can, create a conditional formatting. So you can, to create a measure to put the actual value in here. In my original, it's like reports, so I have the maximum 4.8 and I have the secondary y-axis as 1.2. That might not be correct because 3.5, it's like it should basically, well, it doesn't necessarily matter if 3.5 reaches 100% because that's not, the values that they're representing. But to have them both in, it's like the same scale is basically what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to copy this 1.2 and 4.8. Let's go back here. And this will be important for creating this error bar here, which I'll show you in a second. So let's just go back. Let's keep, it's like fixing some things here. The columns, let's change the color of the columns. So we're going to go into conditional formatting for the colors. And we're going to go to field value, and we're just going to use the same old color condition that we just made. That's going to basically create this look. And the whole point of doing it in this way is so that you can actually very quickly see these customers are these customers. So it's just having the same color, it's like show the same customers. That's good. I turn on the border because I think it looks, pretty neat. You can increase the space between columns if you want. I try not to because we're putting some more, it's like values inside of these columns with the data label. So we turn the data labels on. We don't want to show data labels for everything. So when we go to, it's like data labels, we can click the cumulative revenue percentage. We're going to turn it off for here because we only want to show the values for the cumulative revenue percent, the cutoff revenue percent. Now, if we go to the sum of the revenue here, what I want to do is I want to put the position in inside end, and that means that it's going to show up inside here. And we can, it's like do a couple of things to, make it look a little nicer, turn off the background. And we're also going to add a detail. So we're going to put in the not cumulative, but the revenue grand total percentage here, so that in each of these columns you can see what is the millions of US dollars and how much of that is represented as percent. So it's a little bit of information. That's all you need. You can see it doesn't show for everything. That's okay. You don't need to see it for every it's like item. Then we're going to go to markers. I like to turn the markers on, and you can see that this is just filled in the actual it's like report that I'm trying to build. They're not filled in, so I'm going to show you a neat little trick to it's like get that out there. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to go to the error bars. In the upper bound, I'm actually putting in the exact same cumulative revenue. We're selecting the cumulative revenue percentage as series. Of course, you have to enable it as well. And once you enable it, the bar will be it's like available. Make sure the bar color doesn't matter at all. We're making the marker shape into a circle. We're changing the border color. Let's change this into red for now so that you can actually see it. And we're going to increase the border size. And now you can see on here that the border size is increasing. Now this doesn't look exactly like what we want to put. So we're actually going to put the border color to be blue. Make the border size, it's like, can we increase the border size here? No, sorry. Border size, we can just put to whatever. We'll increase the marker size, and then we'll go back up to the markers, go to the cut off revenue percent, and then change the color here to white. And now you can see that they're kind of overlapping. It means that the marker is actually on top and the error bar is below. So you actually need to make leave the markers and border size, just play around with it until you get the right it's like value here. So now the border size is you can only make the border size 1 or 2, but now you have a color, it's like not just a color, but like an actual marker that is representative of this. This looks pretty good, and we're gonna go and close the error bars, go to markers, and for the the cutoff revenue, we're gonna change this just to it's like blue. So now you can see there's one filled in, and you can even make this slightly bigger, it's like so that it's more it's like apparent. And this is the one item that is the actual cutoff value. So now we're gonna make this bar actually show up, and in order to do that, all you need to do is go to the error bars again, select the cutoff revenue, and then put in the cutoff revenue percent, GT percent, into the lower bound. Now the GT percent here is actually not the GT percent. I've kind of labeled it wrong, but this is what it's going to be in the starter kit. So just use this specific value here for the lower bound. I've just divided this by 4, and by doing that, I actually have it reach the top of this value every single time. You might find that it doesn't work properly at first, but you just have to go back to the y-axis, set your minimum to be 0 for both the primary y-axis and the secondary y-axis, and then you'll have this it's like nice bar that goes from it's like the bottom all the way up to here to indicate that this is the area basically dividing the most important customers by the less important customers. Let's also go to the data labels. We'll go to the cutoff revenue percent here. We will turn the title on. Series name, that's fine for now. We'll also add detail. We'll add the cutoff revenue percent as a detail here. Maybe not cutoff revenue percent, but cutoff revenue, cumulative revenue. Oh yeah, so that's fine. That's what I want to put in here. And we're going to go to the layout, select multi-line, and we're going to make the background a little bit darker, maybe add a little bit more transparency there, just so you can see that this is indicative of this. Now that doesn't look great. In order to fix that, we need to go to the cutoff revenue line axis here. We'll call this cut off. And you can see here now we have the cutoff is 79% and is 17.8 million US dollars for the cumulative amount. Really easy to see, really, it's like nice to show. We also don't really need to have these different, it's like X and Y axis. So I'm going to go to the Y axis here. We're going to turn off the values on both of these. Here you can actually see it says it's already turned off. That's a bug. You just need to turn it on and off again. We'll also turn off the titles because we don't need those. Yeah, okay. So this is basically completely in line with what I've created here. There's nothing more you need to do about it. And let's go back to this, it's like here, and we're going to take a quick look at the parameter. In order to create this parameter, we're going to, okay, so let me slide this down a little bit. This parameter here is a what if parameter. So if I change that into a slicer, you can see that if I make this, it's like smaller, then it's going to show you the first customer is going to represent 20% of the revenue, but you can actually see the line is a little bit below, and that's because the customer actually has more than 20% of the revenue. So if we, it's like, no, sorry, that's not really what I mean. But if we go here, then this customer, 16%, that, it's like represents the first, it's like 20% of the revenue. If we go to like a little bit more, closest to 51% is 48% here. Now, this is the logic that I've chosen, which is just what is the closest amount. But if you wanted to say, let's go back to 20%, the first customer only represents 16%. So you actually need the first and second customer to get to 20%. You could, of course, just change how to, how to find the cutoff customer logic. So instead of having just the item that is the closest by the absolute value, you could just have maybe not the absolute value and then identify which is the closest positive value or something like that. Okay, but in order to create this parameter, we're only going to go into modeling, new parameter, numeric range. You can call this parameter whatever you want. We're going to make it into a decimal number. Minimum is going to be 0.01. It's going to be a maximum of 1 with increments of 0.01. And I like to put the default to 0.8 because that's what we're doing. I'm not going to make it right now because that's just what I've done to make it here. And it will create this and it will add a slicer. It usually creates a, it's like selected parameter measure. I renamed it to be Pareto, it's like value. And you can see the 0.8 is what it should be by default. Looks good. In order to, to get all of this here, this is a text box. And, it's like I've added this text box here because I want this, it's like stuff to be a little bit below. I'm just going to copy this honestly because I don't really need to remake it. It's just revenue analysis by customer in, Segway UI Lite 18. This here is Segway UI 12. Just to make this aligned, let's make this Segway UI, make this bold. I think I had this at 16. I think that's fine. So now that's aligned. The parameter itself, I put underneath here, but really that's up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to remove the slicer header, and that's literally all I've done. Maybe values, also make this bold and slightly bigger, easier to see. 81, got aligned here, 81%. And then I'm going to show you this, it's like other parts, which of the text here, the actual text changes based on what you've selected here. So 36 is 3 customers, 68 is 7 customers. And the way that I am doing that here is I'm going to go to insert text box. We're going to add another text box here. Make this 81% of, it's like revenue comes from, and then here after you've written this, which is, it's like the base amounts, make sure to format it properly. Let's make this 14 so it's a little bit easier to see. 81% of revenue comes from, and then you click this thunderbolt here, value. And what you're going to do is you're going to try to just type this for Pareto cutoff rank. This is that measure we just went through. Just click save, that's fine. Comes from 9. Sometimes it does this thing where, it doesn't go the right place that you want it to. This is one of the bad parts of using the text box for dynamic values. Make sure that you're highlighted where you want that value to show up. Value, let's just type that again. For Pareto cutoff rank, save, comes from 9 customers. And we're going to make the 9 customers bold and slightly bigger. And that's about it. We're going to make this pretty small. And then use the arrow keys once you have it selected to move it next to the actual slider. 81% of revenue comes from 9 customers, 34% of revenue comes from 3 customers, etc. Great. Now here, we're just going to remove the title from this. We're going to move it up. Okay, come on. Okay, I don't know what that's trying to do. Maybe let's take the customer off the x-axis. That's fine. Okay, so now we can slide this up and down and we can see that it's going to, it's like change dynamically. Pretty great. one thing that you do have to make sure to do is go to selection, make sure that the, it's like visual is at the very bottom of the selection, so that when you're in your report, you can, it's like select the slider. One last thing I would do for this page is maybe select everything, Control A, then go into Format, go to Properties, turn your header icons off. I don't like header icons that much. It's like, I think it's fine to do it this way. And also that's basically it. That's the first page. Now, the benefit of this is that it wasn't so difficult to do, but it's not dynamic. So let's go and try to add, it's like binning first, and then we'll make the bins dynamic. So on to page 2. I'm honestly just going to copy this part here because we're only going to be changing this for now. So we're going to copy this, go to static others. We're going to paste this in. We're going to sync the visuals. That's okay. That doesn't really do anything for us. But what we're going to try to do now is, okay, I might even copy this as well, is we are trying to make this, but we are going to create a different, it's like kind of, it's like we're just adding others. And there's a couple different ways to do this. I'm actually going to show you the static way to do this. And the static way is, of course, what you might be inclined to do as well, to try to build it using a calculated column. Now, this calculated column is pretty simple. Basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the customer cumulative revenue percentage for, it's like the customers that you've selected. And if the customer is greater than the Pareto value, is less than or equal to the Pareto value, then you make it into others. Now, you might want to just make it less than the Pareto value. It's like realistically, I think this is probably the right way to do it. But if you were to do this, then none of your, it's like previous measures would really work. So let's try this here. So if I put this into customer, it's like group like this, we don't, it's like we don't have a rank. The revenue is showing because that's just the total amount, but the revenue cumulative and the revenue cumulative percentage isn't working. And the reason for that is we need to create a new value. So the cumulative revenue now is actually showing number 2 rank. And that's because the, it's like rank that we had before no longer works. This is a little bit more, it's like annoying, but basically if, let's try to format this so it's a little bit easier to see. This is a switch function. Basically what it's telling you is that if we is trying to tell you 3 different things, right? If this is in scope, then we're using this, blah, blah, blah. So switch function is basically a nested if statement or a case statement if you're from SQL. What we're trying to do is if the selected value of the customer group is others, then we're going to calculate the distinct count no blank of the customer group of all of the selected items. So that basically means if we're in others, we want this rank to show the total sum of values here. The reason that we have to do it like this is because it is possible that you are only filtering, it's like some things. So you want to have others show, but others should always be the last rank of all of the selected items. That's what, it's like this calculation is showing right here. If that's the case, oh no, it changed all of that again. So let me just back. Okay, we're fine now. Save this. Okay, and then if it's not the others, we will create is in scope customer group, and then we'll rank it normally by revenue. And that basically means that if we put the rank 2 value in here, then it's going to actually rank this properly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then of course, the last others is always going to be rank 10 because you want this to be separated from these values. But because now we're using rank 2, everything else has to change. The color has to show, instead of rank 1 in the initial value, we have to use rank 2. If we want to use cumulative revenue, we also have to show that the current rank is using rank 2 instead of rank 1. And that has to be reflected in the cumulative revenue percentage as well. So really easy to do. Let me just change this quickly. First, we're going to change the conditional formatting of this bar into color rank 2. Cool. And we're going to change the color of this table as well to be reflective of that. Actually, we don't have to do that there because this still works regardless of, it's like the others, because we're not showing others in here. But if I was to try to change, instead of customer, show customer group, I would, it's like presumably want this to be, it's like different, and I would have to change everything based around this. We're not going to do that. We're just going to leave this as is for now because we can see, it's like this just fine. And this isn't showing, it's like correctly because this value is 0.8. As you remember, this is supposed to be the static version, and it has to be because it's being created with a calculated column. Calculated columns are resolved on data refresh time, so it doesn't mean that if I change this, the calculated column will change at all. So that's one of the downsides of doing this, but for some people, this might be okay. And I did want to show that this was a little bit different. I have also created this here, which is, it's like just to really take up the space more than anything, but I do think it's not a bad way to go about it. If you were to just, okay, so I'm just going to copy and paste this. Doesn't really matter so much for this one because this is just straight up it's like a donut chart with the customer group, the new calculated column, and the sum of revenue. And the only formatting that's being really done here is that the detail labels are outside and it shows the category and the percent of total, as well as all of the slice colors have been made into this light blue. And the reason for doing that is so that if some item is selected, then it can, it's like show the actual amount. But also, I like to do this. I like to make the, it's like items filter the donut chart so that you have to move the donut chart a little down. So I like to make the formatting filter the donut chart so that if you're selecting just a couple things, then you can see it's like the others and how much, it's like, and that seems to change a bit more dynamically. And I can also do something like this, and that will change this as well. Now, this doesn't seem to, it's like work so well with the table doesn't seem to cross filter the diagrams so very well. So be warned to edit the interactions for the table to change it to filter because it works much better this way. Because we're using all selected, if we are, say, let's select the top 3 items, then it will try to find the Pareto of those top, it's like items there. And it works in this way really nicely. So you can dynamically change what is the scope of items you're looking at. Okay, so let's unselect that. Let's turn off edit interactions. Probably you'd want to do the same here, but honestly, let's just do that real quick. Change the interactions. Now, when I select specific item, you can see that it's creating a new Pareto, it's like for this specific, it's like selected values, which is really cool. Okay, so we've created a static amount of others, but now we want to create a static group of others. And the others group is really about using the new functionalities in the matrix in order to show, it's like groupings of others. So the groupings of others, that's a little bit, it's like wordy. What we're trying to do is we're trying to put all of the, it's like items that fall into Pareto at the top in one group and then at the bottom in another group. And let's go back to ours. And if we go here, we'll just copy this again. We're not going to change this diagram anymore. We're going to sync. That's fine. We'll make this a little bit shorter. That's okay. And okay, we're just going to copy this into here just as a starting point. And what we're going to do on this page is we have another, it's like a thing that we created. Here you can see that before, if we were in the Pareto, it's like value, we were putting in either the customer or the others. But here in the new calculated column, we're either putting a 1 or a 2. I guess this could be a top or others, but for now we're just putting it as a 1 or a 2. And the reason we're doing that is in the format, in the build, we're going to remove, okay, so this one, I have to start with the basic table to show you what I am trying to do. So we've got the basic table, it's like going, and then we're putting the customer group into the hierarchy and we're expanding the hierarchy. So here we go. Now we have, all of the items that are in the top and then all of the items that are in the bottom, but you can actually see that some of the things aren't really working as intended. Because in the actual value, in the actual, it's like end result, you can see that we have all of the other items, all of the customers here. We have a total of others that is being shown here. So this is the number of items that is at the top and the bottom. Right now, it doesn't seem to be working perfectly because it's not really supposed to show total of others. It's supposed to show total of benchmarked items. That's okay. Let's see if I can fix that. It's like as we keep going. And then we have a rank that goes just from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then continues onwards, as well as for the revenue cumulative. Because even though they're separated, you should still see it progress. If you go into our, it's like working title, and you have all of the measures from, it's like the first version, they don't actually work that way. They don't, it's like continue onwards. So we're gonna have to change the rank first. So we have a number 3 rank, and it's basically saying that if it's in scope, we're checking the data, it's like for all of the customers and all of the customer group at the same time. So let's put the rank 3 in, and you can see that in now it's actually showing everything, and it's taking, it's like these two things into account. But how do we get totals to show the actual value that we want? So to do this, we have to, it's like do a little bit more additional formatting. First, what we're going to do is we're going to go to layout and style presets. From compact, I'm going to change it to tabular. And from tabular, what we're actually going to do first is we're going to make, okay, we need to go to the row headers. We'll turn off text wrap. We're just going to make this invisible. Now this seems counterintuitive, but don't worry. The reason is really simple. We're actually showing which customer there is by using the selected customer. So we have the selected customer here, and this is actually going to show the first customer. Okay, let me try to format this so it's easier to read. So if data customer is, it's like visible, then we're going to show the selected customer. Otherwise, if the if data 3 customer group is in scope, then we're going to show the total. Well, then we're going to show this, it's like text calculation that we created. Otherwise, it's supposed to show the total of, it's like this amount here. It looks as though something went wrong, and total of others is not showing the correct valuation here, because if the selected value of data 3 customer group equals space and 1, okay, here, total of benchmark of 80% is 9. Okay, so that's basically all there was to it. Okay, and you may, it's like think that it was a little bit fast and you're not sure what's going on. Basically, this is a measure. And this measure is only saying, show me what is the selected customer. And if it's the total amount, so if the customer isn't in scope, show me something else. And, it's like, and what it's showing is what is the total amount, what is the total of as a string. And if we are in, it's like the selected, if we're here at this level and not at the full total, show me if we're at the top, it's like in the selection, the benchmarked 80%. And if not, show me the total of others, and then count how many customers are in this group. That's all that it is. And if we're not looking at this, new calculated column, show me the total of everything. So now that we have that rank, we can, it's like use this new rank to create, it's like everything else as well. So, it's like we have to change the color to be, it's like that value again. So let's change this blank valuation. Okay, great. And then we have, it's like revenue. Revenue is just the sum of revenue. Nothing needs to change really there, because we are not basically, we're not changing this. The total revenue of this amount is here. The total revenue of this amount is here. Fine. For cumulative revenue, it looks a little bit more complicated. That's because we now have, it's like multiple different hierarchies. So what we have to do here is, if we don't do anything, we'll see that's the, it's like revenue amount is going to, it's like show the 22.39 as the total. This may be fine for you. It may be that you want to change it. For now, I'm not going to do anything to this. Revenue cumulative is there. Revenue cumulative percent. Revenue cumulative here is the previous one. So if I remove this and add revenue cumulative percentage, now you can see instead of showing 22.39 there, it shows only the cumulative value up to here. And the way that you need to do that is to keep using the is in scope functions. Is in scope, it's like basically just tries to see, are we looking at, it's like data customer, or are we looking at the upper hierarchy? Are we looking at this level or this level? At the total, we're looking at this level, and it basically just is the same as if we were doing this. So it's good to see, it's like how it's actually working out. And now it's showing the correct value here, as well as the revenue, cumulative revenue. That's just altering that to this so that it's moving, it's like in a nice way downwards. There's a couple more formatting tricks that you can do, like you can add blank rows in order to, it's like space things out a bit more. You can go into the grid, put borders. So right now there's a border on the row header selection, so I can turn that off if I so wish. I can go into row grand total. I can make the background color like a little bit darker, and I can also go into row subtotals, and I think here I can make the value like a nice light blue or something so that it's a little bit more, it's like visible. That's pretty much okay. There's still this, it's like level of needing to scroll, so we can go back to the grid, go to the options, turn down the row padding a little bit so that you don't need to scroll for anything. Okay, now if we look at it, looks pretty good. Of course, you might want to change, it's like the titles and things, but of course now we're at the stage where we've built everything and you've come to the realization that calculated columns are not dynamic. So how do we actually make this dynamic? Let's start here. We're gonna copy this again, saying fine. Okay, from here, maybe I'll copy this too. That's actually okay. So from the dynamic part, we're gonna go into some of the more interesting parts, I think. And we're gonna start at number 4. Now, number 4 here, this is going to, it's like be dynamic. Let me show you what it looks like once again. So the number of customers changes based on what you've selected. And I think this is, it's like the really good way to do things. I haven't made this, it's like affect the donut chart, which I probably should have, but whatever, let's forget about that for now. Here, in order to actually, it's like change the revenue and, it's like make it be dynamic, the way that it's actually being done is using a customer and others table that is actually connected one-to-many. There's a couple of different things you need to do. First, you need to create customer and others table. So first, what we're going to do is if you go into modeling and you click this button here, create a new table, then you can, it's like create, okay, let me show you what this looks like. So if you click this, it'll prompt you to create a new table. And what I've put in here is, first I've called it, a specific table name. I'm going to call it test, just so you can see the process of doing it. We're doing union distinct of this actual, it's like customer. So we're getting all of the customers, and then we're basically appending one additional row, which is a column that just says, which is a row that says others. That's what this, it's like table is supposed to give you. Make this, then you can see in the actual table test that it's just all of the distinct customers plus others. Now, if I was to make this and I wanted to connect the customer to customer in the data, what would happen is first it would show one-to-one. That is okay, but it wouldn't show the others. So you actually have to do many-to-one, and you have to, it's like, it should just be single. So it should be that, okay, I think I did this the wrong way, one-to-many. So it should be that the customer, the new table that you've created filters the data. And if you don't do it in one-to-many, your others column just won't exist. I've put it bidirectional here, but honestly, it doesn't matter. We're just gonna remove this here because I've already obviously created this table, and I'm using this customer as the, it's like rows. And what this does is it gives me everything. And that's pretty good, but you can see that now it gives me everything and it doesn't really filter anything out. It's still pretty good in the sense that I can see that the rank is there. So maybe I can filter by, it's like empty ranks, but that's not really what we're going to do. So first, let's go into number 4 and find out how to create the rank. So the main thing here is that we've got this Pareto cutoff rank, right? And this is going to be the dynamic value that we're using in order to identify how many people should we actually be, it's like have here. And the Pareto revenue, this may seem a little bit complicated, but it's really not so bad. This is going to basically take the top items within the cutoff rank. So, it's like all of these different, top, customers here, and it's going to make a table out of them. And to calculate the revenue, we're just taking the revenue and we're putting that filter into, it's like this revenue. So we're calculating what is the revenue for each of the items within the top, it's like customers. Then for the other revenue, we're basically saying, look, what we want to do here is we want to take all of the revenue within, it's like this table, and then we want to remove it's like Pareto revenue. So it'll be actually show just as 0 if it's not part of the Pareto, it's like Pareto customers, if it's not part of the customers. And then we'll clean it by saying that if it's actually 0, you know what, we don't want zeros, we'll make. And then if the selected value in this new customer table is not others, then we'll return the Pareto value. Otherwise, we'll return the other value. And doing it this way, if I put in Pareto revenue into here, let's just remove these other ones for now. It's fine. Then you can see that now it's actually showing others, and it's showing the actual values that you'd want to see and expect to see for everything else. This seems a little bit complicated, but it's, it's really not so bad. This is the most complicated, it's like measured in all of this, I think. And then we can create the rank based around this Pareto revenues. We're just saying if the revenue is not blank, then we're going to, give a rank based around this customer, column that we've, created in this new table. So let me just throw that rank in there, and you can see that it is working pretty nicely. Others is number 7, and you can also see that this is in fact, of course, dynamic. So if you have less, percents of the revenue we're looking at, the number of customers changes as well as everything else. For the color, just need to change the rank again to number 4. For cumulative revenue, it's basically just doing the exact same thing as all of the other revenues, cumulative revenues, but if the customer is in, the new customer column is in scope, we're going to rank things by the number 4 rank, and it's like basically the same as what you've seen before. And then of course, cumulative revenue percentage is just cumulative revenue rank, divided by the total, and revenue GT percent, that should just Pareto revenue divided by the total revenue. So there you have it, a dynamic way in order to create all of this, together. Now, let's just change the color so we have it anyway. Okay, so we've changed the color, and now let's bring it home with last page, which is how to make this dynamic and also change, with the actual, with the slice, the slicer and the groups. Wow, this has been a long video. Okay, so first what we're gonna do is we're just gonna copy the static others group. We're gonna copy all of this here, just paste it into this page. That's fine. And the way that this one works is that we're gonna actually create another table, which is gonna be a bit more simple. So we're going to create a table just using the modeling, new table again, put in data table, make the 2 columns, which is going to be selection string, index integer, and it's going to be top 1, others 2. The way that looks like is it's going to look like this. Super easy. Top 1, others 2. There is an easier way to write this, but I wanted to have the names be like this, and that's fine. And this is actually not connected to anything, but I'm going to show you, where this actually comes from in just a second. So let's go here. We're going to get rid of a lot of stuff in here, but what's actually going to happen is we're going to stay with customer, but we're going to put in selection into this row right here. So it's going to be top and others, but right now you can see it just shows everything. And that's because it is not filtering the data in any shape or form. So what we have to do is we have to go and create this value. The Pareto revenue for the cutoff rank is very similar to what we have with the Pareto revenue for, number 4, but this Pareto revenue only takes a couple things more into account. So we're going to take the top n of the cutoff rank for all of the selected items, the same, condition as before. Pareto revenue is calculated the same way. So if it's in the top, top customers, then, just calculate them. Then the other revenue is basically just going to, be exactly the same. Just subtract the all possible revenue from, the Pareto table, clean the, item again. And if the value is not in others, show Pareto revenue, otherwise show revenue clean, otherwise show total revenue. This additional otherwise is for, the very total here. Pretty straightforward, honestly. And we're gonna just go start removing a couple things here, and we'll put in Pareto revenue first. And then you can see that, hang on, I hit those things right now. So then we can see that the Pareto revenue is actually showing for, even though there's no real connection between I mean, there's no real relationship between the actual new table that I've created because of this Pareto revenue taking into account if others is in the selected value or not, then it will return a value and create a fake relationship, which is very cool. And now we have a top and others. And then you know how the story goes. We create another, it's like number 5 rank, which is the same as number 4 rank, basically. It's like instead of here, we're doing rank all selected data customer. So we'll just throw that in here first. That's fine. Here, right now, I haven't put in the is in scope part. I guess I didn't have that there either. But now you can see that the total rank at the, it's like very bottom is 1. Honestly, I'm just using colors to hide this. You don't really need to worry about that so much. Cumulative revenue is basically showing similar to, I believe, this cumulative revenue, but this cumulative revenue is taking the Pareto revenue. And if the result is, in others, then just take the Pareto revenue. Otherwise, take the, it's like cumulative revenue, and then use the is in scope to identify if it's going to show the Pareto revenue or if it's going to show the result revenue. Put that in there as well. Works just fine. It's a little bit more complex because, it's like we did in the static others group, we want to show this value, it's like that is cumulative up to here and then cumulative continuously up to here. And if we didn't put in all of those conditions, it wouldn't show the right values. Then cumulative revenue percentage is the easiest one. And let's see, revenue GT percent, which is just the same here. And then we're doing the same trick as we did in the previous item where we make these hidden basically. So, and then we have the selected customer, which same as the previous selected customer. If the customer is in scope, we show the, selected customer. If the selection table is in scope, then we are trying to say it's either a total of the benchmarked amount. Right here, I have this additional condition round to, it's like 100 because it was showing me some errors previously, not super important. And then we have, basically the same condition as, it's like previously, which I'm not going to go into. Okay, so now we have all of this. This is looking pretty good. Let's just make all of these slimmer. And then one additional thing that, it's like you can do if you, it's like chose to is, I haven't really done it in this one, is you can make another, it's like column here in order to, it's like show the actual bar. I think here I have this, which is revenue bar. You can do that if you want. You don't necessarily have to. You can even put the same revenue bar here. Oh, sorry, you can't actually put in the same revenue bar. But if you were to create a new bar, you could just, it's like create a new measure. Let's call this 5 revenue bar. And then instead of the sum, let's put in number 5 Pareto revenue. And then let's take a look at this build. Right, the revenue bar, you can put that right next to the revenue. It will basically just be the same, but you just not showing for, it's like the benchmark. And then you can make this revenue bar, right click it, conditional formatting, data bars, make it into, any color that you want. Doesn't really matter. Show bar only because you already have those values. And then now you have like a nice little chart that shows the bar as well. That's pretty cool. Before, it's like I tried to have this as the same color as this, but there's no way to dynamically set what color the bar is going to be. So honestly, any color is fine. And there you have it. That is the whole way of doing all of this. You can see that all of the, I honestly just copied and pasted a lot of things before because I'm not trying to show you the formatting 5 different times. I really hope you learned something from this today. This has been my longest training video, and I really hope that you are able to use something like this. Pareto analysis is really important for anyone who deals with things like sales or even like trying to find cause and effect. Even if you're in HR and you have, for example, number of different reasons why people are leaving due to turnover, you can do Pareto analysis to identify which top reasons people leave, like which top reasons cause 80% of turnover or something like that. I hope you get creative with this, and thanks for watching. Take care. So as always, I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching, and take care. So as always, I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching, and take care.